In the hustle of daily life, we often find ourselves clinging to habits that are familiar yet limiting. It is natural to gravitate toward comfort, yet comfort can be the greatest obstacle to growth. Today, we reflect on 6 habits we must quit if we hope to live a life of fulfillment, purpose, and peace. First, let us talk about procrastination. How often do we find ourselves putting off what we know we must do? We tell ourselves that we'll get to it later, only to find that later never comes. The truth is that procrastination steals our time, our opportunities, and our peace. The habit of delay is rooted in fear or uncertainty, but by confronting tasks head-on, we begin to build momentum. We no longer waste our lives in the land of, "I'll do it tomorrow." Next, we must quit negative self-talk. We are often our own harshest critics. We look in the mirror and see our flaws more than our strengths. We listen to the voice inside that says we're not enough or that our dreams are too far-reaching. But here's the thing. That voice is lying. Our worth is not measured by perfection. To move forward, we must silence the self-doubt and begin to recognize the gifts and strengths we possess. Without this shift in thinking, we risk never reaching the heights we are capable of. Third, we must let go of perfectionism. In our quest to do everything flawlessly, we often achieve nothing at all. The pursuit of perfection paralyzes us with the fear of failure. It pushes us to aim for impossible standards instead of embracing progress. Let us understand this truth. In the journey of life, every mistake, every misstep brings us closer to learning. It is better to try and fail than to never try at all. The fourth habit to quit is avoiding change. Change is intimidating, isn't it? The future is unknown and we often hold on to the present for fear of what lies beyond. But let me remind you, change is the birthplace of opportunity. To avoid it is to deny the possibility of growth. The world around us is constantly shifting, and to refuse that movement is to become stagnant. Embrace change, for it is through it that we will find the potential to transform. Fifth, we must stop neglecting our health. We often place our well-being on the back burner, prioritizing work, obligations, and the demands of others. But without health, all else becomes irrelevant. Physical and mental well-being are the bedrock of our existence. If we wish to achieve anything of substance, we must first nourish and care for the body and mind that will carry us toward our goals. Sixth, quit toxic relationships. It's easy to fall into the trap of maintaining relationships that drain our energy, challenge our peace, or force us to compromise our values. Yet we are not obligated to hold on to these relationships out of guilt or habit. True relationships, those that encourage, inspire, and uplift us, are the ones we should nurture. Let go of the ones that diminish your spirit. Finally, we must quit living for the expectations of others. This is perhaps the most insidious of all the habits. The world has a tendency to impose its values and ideas onto us. But our lives are ours to live, not dictated by the desires or pressures of others. When we cease to live according to someone else's blueprint, we begin to embrace our true selves. We must quit measuring our worth by other people's standards. As we end, take a moment to consider these 6 habits. Each one is a barrier holding you back from the life you were meant to lead. But remember, habits are not permanent. They can be changed. In the quiet of your heart, decide which of these habits you will release. Take the first step today, because the life you seek is waiting for you to begin the journey. Procrastination is a behavior we all encounter in life, and it often presents itself as the act of delaying tasks that we know are important. It may seem harmless at first, a simple choice to take a break or postpone something for a while, but procrastination is far more than that. It's a pattern of behavior that slowly erodes our sense of productivity and control. When we procrastinate, we create a cycle of avoidance. Initially, it feels like a relief to push things aside, but that temporary comfort soon transforms into anxiety as deadlines approach, or as we realize we've wasted time that could have been spent more productively. In the end, procrastination undermines our goals, stresses our mental well-being, and causes a sense of guilt and frustration. Often, procrastination is rooted in deeper issues such as fear of failure, perfectionism, or a lack of motivation. When faced with a challenging task, the mind can feel overwhelmed, and the easiest way out is to push it aside in favor of distractions. But the more we avoid important tasks, the more our stress builds, and the less likely we are to tackle them effectively. Procrastination doesn't just cause us to delay work, it creates a cumulative burden that impacts the quality of the work we eventually do, if we get to it at all. One of the keys to overcoming procrastination is to break tasks down into smaller, manageable chunks. Rather than focusing on the overwhelming task as a whole, focus on completing one small part at a time. Setting time limits. Using tools like timers or calendars and holding oneself accountable can also help combat procrastination. Cultivating a mindset that embraces doing things now, without waiting for the perfect moment, can go a long way in overcoming this destructive habit. Procrastination is not simply an inconvenient habit, it is an enemy of personal and professional growth. Negative self-talk is a pervasive and damaging internal narrative that shapes the way we see ourselves and our world. It is the voice inside that constantly tells us we're not good enough, that we can't do something, or that we're doomed to fail. This voice often becomes the loudest during moments of doubt, when we face challenges, or when we make mistakes. The impact of negative self-talk extends beyond mere thoughts. It shapes our emotions, behaviors, and decisions, ultimately affecting our well-being and progress. The core of negative self-talk lies in its ability to distort reality. It focuses only on our perceived flaws, failures, and shortcomings, amplifying them until they obscure the truth of who we are and what we are capable of. For example, after making a small mistake, we might say to ourselves, "I always mess up. I can't do anything right." Such statements are not only inaccurate, but also self-sabotaging. Negative self-talk builds a cycle of self-doubt, which reinforces the belief that we are incapable of success. This cycle often leads to avoidance, missed opportunities, and a lack of growth. To break the cycle, it's essential to recognize and challenge these negative thoughts. When we catch ourselves thinking negatively, we must question whether those thoughts are based in fact or simply assumptions rooted in fear and insecurity. Replacing these thoughts with more positive and realistic ones can begin the process of healing. A simple shift in perspective, such as "I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I am a failure," can lead to greater self-compassion and resilience. Moreover, positive affirmations can play a crucial role in counteracting negative self-talk. By regularly reminding ourselves of our strengths and achievements, we build a more balanced and empowering internal dialogue. Learning to be kind to ourselves, especially during difficult moments, is vital in the battle against negative self-talk. Over time, with consistent effort, we can silence the inner critic and cultivate a mindset of self-belief and confidence. Perfectionism is the relentless pursuit of flawlessness, the desire to meet impossibly high standards, and the fear of making mistakes. While striving for excellence is commendable, perfectionism often crosses the line into harmful territory, where the focus shifts from doing one's best to the avoidance of imperfection at all costs. Perfectionists may set themselves up for failure by attempting to meet standards that are unrealistic or unnecessary, creating undue stress, frustration, and disappointment. The problem with perfectionism is that it fosters a sense of constant dissatisfaction. No matter how much effort is put into achieving something, perfectionists never feel like it's enough. They constantly believe that there is always something more they could do to improve the outcome. This can lead to a paralyzing fear of failure, where even attempting a task becomes overwhelming because the stakes are perceived to be so high. Perfectionists may delay starting projects or abandon them entirely because they fear that the result will never meet their self-imposed standards. Perfectionism is often driven by an inner belief that our worth is tied to our achievements or how others perceive us. We think that if we are not perfect, we are somehow inadequate. This mindset not only stifles creativity, but also makes it difficult to take risks or embrace new opportunities. The irony is that perfectionists often miss the very joy of learning and growing because they are too focused on getting everything exactly right. The fear of making mistakes prevents them from taking action in the first place, which ultimately hinders their progress. To combat perfectionism, it is crucial to embrace imperfection as a natural part of the process. Recognizing that mistakes are opportunities for growth can help shift the focus from achieving perfection to making progress. Setting realistic goals, accepting that mistakes are inevitable, and celebrating small wins are all important steps in overcoming perfectionism. By releasing the need for perfection, we open ourselves to a more fulfilling and authentic experience of life. Change is an inevitable part of life, yet many of us find ourselves resisting it. The fear of the unknown, the discomfort of stepping out of familiar patterns, and the anxiety about what the future holds all contribute to this resistance. While it's natural to want stability and predictability, avoiding change can keep us stagnant and prevent growth. Growth, by its very nature, requires change. Whether it's in our personal lives, careers, or relationships, embracing change is essential for progress. Avoiding change is often a defense mechanism, a way to protect ourselves from potential failure, disappointment, or loss. It is easier to stay in a familiar situation, even if it's unhealthy or unfulfilling, than to take the risk of making a change. But this avoidance only perpetuates dissatisfaction. Change, though uncomfortable, opens doors to new possibilities. It challenges us to adapt, learn, and evolve. Without it, we become trapped in our current circumstances, no matter how limiting they may be. The resistance to change can also stem from fear of failure. We worry about making the wrong decision, choosing the wrong path, or not being able to handle what comes next. However, avoiding change because of fear is a form of self-imposed limitation. It suggests that we don't trust ourselves to handle life's challenges. In reality, it's through change that we develop resilience, creativity, and problem-solving skills. Each time we embrace change, we gain more confidence in our ability to navigate the unknown. Overcoming the fear of change involves shifting our perspective. Instead of viewing change as something to fear, we can choose to see it as an opportunity. Every change, whether big or small, has the potential to lead us to a better place, even if we cannot immediately see how. By stepping outside our comfort zones and being open to new experiences, we allow ourselves to grow and transform. Our health, both physical and mental, is the foundation of everything we do. Without it, nothing else truly matters. Yet it is all too easy to neglect our health in the pursuit of other goals, whether they are related to work, relationships, or personal ambitions. We prioritize tasks and responsibilities while putting our well-being on the back burner. The problem with this is that neglecting health creates a domino effect. When our health deteriorates, every aspect of our lives is impacted, often in ways that are not immediately visible. Neglecting physical health can manifest in many ways: poor diet, lack of exercise, inadequate sleep, and chronic stress. These habits undermine our energy levels, weaken our immune systems, and increase our risk for long-term health conditions. As we ignore these warning signs, we find ourselves growing fatigued, uninspired, and unable to perform at our best. Mental health, too, is often neglected. We may push through stress, anxiety, or depression without addressing them, believing that we simply don't have the time or energy to focus on our emotional well-being. The reality is that neglecting health in any form ultimately weakens our ability to pursue our goals and live a fulfilling life. Without a strong body and mind, we lack the stamina and resilience needed to overcome challenges. Moreover, ignoring our health for the sake of success leads to burnout, poor decision-making, and a diminished quality of life. True success comes not just from achieving external goals, but from maintaining the inner strength to pursue them. Taking care of our health requires a shift in mindset. a recognition that our well-being is not separate from our ambitions. It is a priority, not an afterthought. Small, consistent steps such as regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and mental self-care are the building blocks of long-term health. By valuing our health, we create a solid foundation on which to build a fulfilling and productive life. Relationships have the power to shape our experiences and influence our emotions. The people we surround ourselves with can either uplift and inspire us, or drain our energy and diminish our sense of self-worth. Toxic relationships, whether with family, friends, or colleagues, are those that negatively impact our well-being, causing stress, sadness, or a sense of being stuck. These relationships often involve manipulation, criticism, disrespect, or emotional abuse, and they can leave us feeling powerless, anxious, or unappreciated. One of the challenges with toxic relationships is that they can be difficult to recognize, especially when they have become ingrained in our lives. We may feel obligated to maintain these connections due to history, guilt, or fear of conflict. However, staying in a toxic relationship is a form of self-sabotage. It depletes our emotional reserves, makes it difficult to grow, and keeps us from forming healthier, more supportive relationships. The impact of toxic relationships can be profound, affecting our mental health, self-esteem, and overall happiness. The constant negativity or emotional drain can lead to feelings of inadequacy, stress, and isolation. Over time, we may begin to question our value and doubt our ability to form healthy connections with others. It's important to recognize that we have the right to set boundaries and distance ourselves from people who harm us, even if they are close to us. Ending or distancing ourselves from toxic relationships can be one of the most empowering decisions we make. It requires courage, but it is essential for personal growth and emotional well-being. By prioritizing our own happiness and health, we make space for more positive, nurturing relationships. These connections will encourage us to be our authentic selves and support us in our journey toward becoming the best version of ourselves. In today's society, there is a great deal of pressure to conform to the expectations of others. We are constantly told what success looks like, how we should behave, and who we should become. This external pressure can lead to a life that is disconnected from our true desires and values. Living for the expectations of others means making choices based on what we believe will satisfy them, rather than what brings us joy or fulfillment. This habit can be particularly dangerous because it often leads to a life that is inauthentic. When we prioritize others' expectations over our own, we lose touch with our passions, needs, and dreams. We may find ourselves chasing goals that are not truly ours, just to gain approval or validation from others. This creates a sense of emptiness, as we are living a life that is not aligned with our true selves. Living for the expectations of others can also breed resentment. When we constantly sacrifice our own desires in favor of others' demands, we may feel unappreciated, overburdened, or trapped. This can lead to burnout and dissatisfaction, as we try to meet unrealistic or external standards that don't reflect our personal values. To break free from this habit, it is important to reconnect with our authentic selves. We must examine our values, passions, and desires, and then make decisions that reflect who we truly are. It's about giving ourselves permission to pursue our own happiness, even if it means disappointing others. By doing so, we reclaim our agency and create a life that is more fulfilling, authentic, and aligned with our true purpose. In conclusion, breaking free from these 6 limiting habits, procrastination, negative self-talk, perfectionism, avoiding change, neglecting health, toxic relationships, and living for others' expectations, requires conscious effort and a willingness to embrace discomfort. Each of these habits keeps us from realizing our full potential and living a life of fulfillment. By taking proactive steps to overcome them, we open ourselves to growth, authenticity, and true happiness. It's not about achieving perfection, but about progress and making choices that honor our well-being and values. The power to change lies within us, and the journey starts with the decision to begin.